this is basically just very, very quick thing about trying to sort of bring together all the themes we're hoping to talk about at the meeting. Yanis and Will do most of the work, basically, but I kind of wanted to explain why I felt PrEP was such an important issue. And when I talk about PrEP, people say, why are you, somebody who's had HIV since 1985, so interested in HIV prevention? And I say, well, look, it's partially because until fairly recently I was fairly sexually active as well, and obviously HIV prevention was of interest to that, but also it's because a whole generation of friends died, and you get people saying, oh, if you'd remember that, you would remember to use a condom. But it's, you know, it's the fact that people didn't use condoms was the reason they died, and if PrEP had been around, it would have saved them. And is the clicker working? Can I have my presentation? But there's also somebody else I'm doing this for, and that's for the young me. This guy, who's been around for quite a long time, as this picture shows. If PrEP had been around in 1981, I might not have caught HIV. I sort of arrived on the London gay scene with a bang, so to speak, in 1978, fresh from university. And there's all the time in our lives where we're young, foolish, relatively pretty, and I was classically within the, you know, if I went along to a clinic these days, they'd say, you need to be on PrEP, because I basically caught every STD going. But I don't think I caught HIV until 1984. And so basically I had 6 years during which I might have gone on PrEP, and if PrEP had been around, I wouldn't have caught HIV. As you see, my coming out more or less coincides with the first, with the first peak of HIV incidence in the UK. And PrEP does and can make a difference, and I showed this in October at the EACS conference. Oh, God blimey, I'm sorry, I'm doing it the wrong way. That's better. I realised I'm holding my clicker upside down. That's how scatty I am. And this is the difference PrEP can make. And Tim has just talked about fast-track cities, and I think the idea of concentrating on the cities where, particularly in countries that have focused epidemics where HIV is most being transmitted, is a brilliant strategy, because this is the difference it can make. This is the HIV diagnosis curve as plotted against tests at Dean Street Clinic in London, the largest HIV clinic in Europe. And 2 years ago, these figures are up to last October. In October 2015, there were 70 HIV diagnoses during that month at the clinic. And in October 2017, there were 4. I wouldn't say that PrEP has been the entire cause of that happening, but it certainly contributed to it. And I think it doesn't just do it because it takes people out, as it were, of the group of people who are potentially infected, though it certainly does that. But also it encourages people to take frequent tests, so there are earlier diagnoses, there is better PrEP adherence, and earlier diagnoses lead to quicker treatment, and so you get into the benefits of quicker treatment of people becoming undetectable. Okay, so before PrEP we had nothing but condoms. We had to push them, we had to encourage people to use them, there was no doubt about that. But I do sometimes worry about the price, because we had to do it with social marketing, and by doing that I think we put forward some very moralistic attitudes and some messages about fear into the population. And PrEP is a challenge to that culture, because it proposes to gay men that it is possible to have sex without fear, and that is a very challenging message, not just to the general population. Harriet has already talked about that. But also within the gay community itself. And the fact that there's, for instance, a new not relatively new Facebook group called Gay Men Against PrEP, shows that there is still a lot of opposition to the idea of PrEP, even within the gay community, who fear that if you don't condoms as the norm, then people will, then the overall health of gay men will decline. PrEP is not enough, clearly. It goes hand in hand with the knowledge that if you are undetectable, HIV is untransmittable. But neither you nor you equals you nor PrEP is working or available in large parts of the world, and I am so glad to have a big contingent of activists from Central and Eastern Europe here, because as this map from UNH shows, those are the countries in the world where HIV is still on the increase, and we badly need to find ways of getting treatment and getting PrEP through to the right people. It's a bit of a dark insert, that picture, but that's of a very courageous HIV activist in Russia being cut off a railing by bolt cutters to show that anger and civil society action is happening even in countries where we in the West may think it's impossible, and many of those brave activists are here. But where are the PrEP users? PrEP is also, as Bob Grant has said, a demand-driven intervention. We need to spread the message to people who potentially could benefit from it. And too many people still don't know about it. And so you Facebook guys out there, publicize this meeting and publicize PrEP. And we've also got people here who are the new wave of PrEP activists who've been helping people buy it online, get it in any way they can, and that in itself has created, I think, a new energy into the HIV movement. So welcome. I think I've overrun by about a minute, having been so fierce about everyone else.
and you're getting another 30 seconds, because I think almost everybody in this room knows you, but we should really say something to the audience out on Facebook. Oh. Who you are and what you do, because you're a famous person, but still you need a proper introduction, and you should probably mention NUM and where you can be found.
Thank you. I'm sure. Thank you. Well, yeah, my boss Matthew is smiling. Yeah, I mean, when I put it on my Facebook page, I failed to die of AIDS in 1998 because of the miracle drugs, and I literally did virtually get off my deathbed. I had to find a new career, and my new career involved being editor of the UK's magazine for people with HIV, Positive Nation, and after that I joined NAM, aidsmap.com, and have been a medical writer, and that got me extremely interested in prevention because I could see its potential, and really I then became sort of PrEP Meister after being asked to help with things like the PROUD study, and here I am today. You've also prompted me to give additional thanks to the people who've supported this meeting, not just Aidsfonds, and without them we wouldn't have been here, but also our steering committee organisation members, AVAC, ED, PrEPster, AIDS Action Europe, National AIDS Trust, and last but not least the ATG, who have all in their own ways chipped in, especially in helping to support other people come to the meeting, so we were able to increase its size by 50%, and you will need a big, big handout. And one of those people, Sindra, is going to come and do a couple of slides just about AVAC's PrEP initiative before we hand over to Yanis. I forgot to tell you about that one.